The newlyweds were still beaming Sunday, never mind that their three-day wedding extravaganza was expected to cost upwards of $50 million.
Imagine spending $50 million on a wedding and still being called frugal. Sounds crazy, right? But when you're Jeff Bezos, the third richest person in the world with a net worth of $244 billion, even a multi-million-dollar celebration barely makes a dent. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a $50 million wedding ever be considered cheap? Let's break it down. Bezos recently tied the knot with Lauren Sanchez in Venice, Italy. The wedding, which was dripping in luxury, glamour, and celebrity guests, reportedly cost anywhere between $47 million and $56 million. But here's the kicker. That extravagant sum only amounts to 0.0193% to 0.023% of his net worth. To put that into perspective, it's like an average American family with a net worth of around $193,000, spending just under $45 on their wedding. That's not even the price of dinner for two at a decent restaurant. For someone like Bezos, this fairy tale wedding is the financial equivalent of picking up a pair of sneakers or ordering takeout. Now compare that to how most people plan weddings today. In the US, the average cost of a wedding sits at around $33,000. And it goes up to nearly $40,000 if it's a destination wedding. For most families, that's nearly 40 to 50% of their entire annual income. In fact, more than half of American couples go into debt to fund their big day. It's wild when you think about it. Regular people are spending way more of their wealth percentage-wise than one of the richest men alive. Bezos, 61, and Sanchez, 55, celebrated over 3 lavish days in Venice. We're talking water taxis for celebrity guests, suites in 5-star hotels, and nearly 90 private jets flying people in. The guest list, a who's who of Hollywood. Leonardo DiCaprio, Oprah, the Kardashians, and more. And yet, financially speaking, it was like Bezos skipped the wedding planner and threw a modest backyard barbecue. Let's really drive this point home. What would the average American have to spend to match that same percentage of net worth Bezos did? A construction worker with a $60,000 net worth, just $11 to $13. A nurse with a $125,000 net worth, around $24 to $29. A journalist with $100,000 net worth, between $19 and $23. A teacher with $200,000, they'd only spend $38 to $46. Even a lawyer with a $500,000 net worth, they'd still only be looking at $96 to $115. We're talking about spending less than the price of a dinner date or a couple of fancy lattes. That's what Bezos spent on his wedding, relatively speaking. And what's more, his hourly earnings are so massive, this wedding might have cost him the equivalent of a few hours of work. He earns an estimated $8 million an hour from his Amazon stock holdings. So spending $50 million is roughly 0.0714% of his annual earnings. That's like you spending a small fraction of your paycheck on a weekend getaway, something you won't even remember in a few years. Bezos could throw this wedding 10 times over and still not notice. But this isn't just about Bezos. The real story here is the insane contrast between billionaire wealth and how much average people are pushed to spend on weddings. It's about expectations, pressures, and priorities. Because while Jeff Bezos is flying in 200 guests on private jets and wearing Dolce & Gabbana, average American couples are borrowing money, taking loans, maxing out credit cards, and starting their marriages in debt. According to a recent U.S. News survey, 56% of newlyweds took on debt to pay for their wedding. That includes 39% relying on credit cards and 18% taking personal loans. In some cases, family steps in with loans or gifts. But regardless, the financial pressure is real. Now let's talk long-term impact. What happens when you start a marriage owing money from the get-go? It adds stress, big time. Money problems are one of the top reasons couples fight and even separate. So that Instagram-worthy ceremony, it might be costing more than just dollars. Let's do a little thought experiment. If the average $33,000 wedding were invested instead with a modest 7% annual return over 30 years, we're talking over $250,000. That's your future home down payment, your child's college fund, your retirement safety net. But instead it's gone in one day, for one party. Meanwhile, Jeff and Lauren's wedding wasn't just about personal celebration, it stirred up some controversy too. Locals in Venice weren't exactly thrilled. Protesters held signs saying no space for Bezos, calling out how their historic city was essentially shut down to accommodate the billionaire's big day. parts of Venice were blocked off. Crowds of tourists swelled. Regular residents felt like their home was up for rent to the highest bidder. Activist Marta Satoreva even said, "Our city has been sold to the highest bidder." And honestly, when 90 private jets and luxury yachts are flooding into one of the world's most fragile and over-touristed cities, you can understand why the backlash is strong. Still, city officials defended the event, claiming Bezos gave back, including donations to restore council homes and other causes. But the broader symbolism, it struck a nerve. And yet again, while the internet debated Bezos's billionaire extravagance, here's the reality. His wedding was far less of a financial strain than the average American couple's. That's the irony. And here's the crazy part. It's not even about whether Bezos should have spent less. He earned that money, and he has every right to celebrate. But it forces us to hold up a mirror to our own habits, doesn't it? Why are so many regular people stretching their finances to the brink or beyond, just to match a Pinterest-perfect wedding fantasy? Why are we spending 25% to 50% of our income, while someone worth billions spends a fraction of a percent and still manages to go viral? Now, I'm not saying you should go elope at City Hall with a plastic ring, but maybe we need to rethink what a dream wedding really means. Is it about the flowers, the fireworks, the Instagram posts, or is it about starting your life together without a mountain of stress and debt? If the richest man in the world can get away with a wedding that's proportionally cheaper than a trip to Target for most people, maybe we've got the whole thing backward. And I'll leave you with this. The wedding industry is a business. It thrives on selling dreams. But dreams can be expensive when you're financing them with high-interest credit cards. So next time you hear about some celebrity blowing millions on their big day, ask yourself, what are they really spending compared to what they have? And more importantly, what are you spending compared to what you have? Because if Jeff Bezos can have a cheap wedding at $50 million, maybe it's time we all redefined what too much really means. Thanks for watching, and if this made you rethink the way you look at weddings, wealth, or even your own financial goals, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's keep this conversation going.